Are you yearning to wake up each morning and ignite a new meaning and purpose in life and beyond? Welcome, everyone. I'm Michael McGinnis, an award-winning author, speaker, and educator on human potential, and your host on You Can Do It, Inspiring Growth, Igniting Potential. Life presents us with challenges that serve as catalysts for growth. The pivotal question is, how do we respond to these challenges? Or better yet, opportunities. Do we adopt a victim mindset or rise to become victors? Our goal here is to guide and inspire you to master the most amazing journey you have, your life. You Can Do It starts now. Hey, good morning, everybody. Michael McGinnis here with You Can Do It. We're in this wonderful topic of retirement, and we're sharing with you critical aspects of that to help you really to be able to, which is the topic of the podcast, achieving your full potential within retirement. And it was a great example of that. Just this morning, I was out at a friend of, and what was the topic? His mom, 98 years old. And I asked him a lot of questions about it, and he said she's really doing well, and mental faculties and everything are well. And I said, and what really helped to get her there, do you think? And he goes, that's easy. She just stayed active. She had friends, she stayed connected with them, and she always challenged herself with learning something new. And guess what the new thing is now? At 98 years old, she is learning how to play piano, right? I mean, that's amazing. That's really characteristic of somebody that is achieving their full potential. Well, today we're going to utilize a framework that's really going to help us to start thinking about our needs in retirement. And shown here is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This was a model that really significantly influenced my research throughout my career on achieving full potential. In fact, the top of his pyramid he labels as self-actualization. And that's what I would label my enlightenment, both meaning the same thing. It's where we ultimately achieve the best of what we can be in whatever phase of life we are in. And below that are the other needs that must be met in order for us to fully actualize. So at the bottom, you see physiological. Well, those needs need to be met before we can pursue our safety needs. And then our safety needs need to be met before we can really pursue the love and belonging and connection that we have with others. And then love and belonging is a key ingredient for us to be able to develop our sense of esteem. Hey, we are somebody. We can be somebody, right? Because we've been nurtured. We've had the past love to be able to get us there. And then the esteem is what we use to really be able to give us that power, that energy, that insight, that motivation to really to go out there and continue to pursue our life to be who we want to be. Well, this model can be used in any phase of life. And obviously our topic right now is on retirement. So Heather, welcome Heather, and I are going to further talk about these needs and some of the key elements as it relates to retirement. And so those are going to be the topic that we're going to review today so that, again, you can focus on what are the needs you need to do. Because the amazing part is that we've done all of this work for many of us to get through our lives, our different phases, our career, our moving through our career and self-actualizing in a career. Now we come to this new phase of retirement, and guess what? We have to start all over. Many of these needs are very different than they meant to us or needed to be to us in the earlier phases of life. And we're going to talk about that. That's the significance of this change in retirement. The value and benefit of this is all these topics that we've been covering. If you're to be able to understand and then integrate and consider them for yourself, it'll help you to navigate and move through this phase of life and find a new way to be able to self-actualize, or as Dr. Riley Moynes refers to it in the self-actualization phase, is how do people squeeze all the juice out of what's left of their life, right? And that's a great way to sort of look at this and saying, yes, for those that want to squeeze all the juice that had to live their full life, that's why we're going to review this framework. So Heather, why don't you just say hi and then jump into some of the base of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. So, hello, everyone. Happy to be here again and still talking about this topic because it's so, so important. And, as Michael said, it's so important that we continue to look at this model in this phase of our life because a lot of the things in Maslow's hierarchy of needs just kind of happen for us a lot of time in life, for the majority of us. And as we're going into retirement, those basic physiological needs that we're probably they're just there, right? We don't think much about them, but they remain crucial and we really should begin focusing on them, right? Maintaining our health, making sure that we are still getting good nutrition and have access to good nutrition. That can be an issue more prevalent than we'd like to think about, and also physical well-being, making sure that physically we are maintaining where we are. Whether you want to continue doing things physically that you have in the past, or you just want to make sure that, gosh, when you pull that jar out of the cupboard, you can still open it. Right? Little things that still focusing on that physical well-being to make sure that we're really living the best life possible in this phase. And unfortunately, a lot of times in this phase of life, we're required to prioritize that physical care and manage chronic conditions. So this can affect our overall quality of life. However, managing these things, even though like maybe it's something that we can't change it, it's there, but through good nutrition, exercise, and that's both physical and cognitive exercise because we want to stay sharp as we're getting older, we can manage our health better and stay in a better quality of health through this time. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I think the trend is that we're living longer. The unfortunate part is the time that we spend in poor health isn't getting shorter. So think about that. We've got this, last third of our life, and because we're living longer, we need to start thinking about how do we want our health to look in this period of life. So again, maintaining our health as long as possible to maintain that quality of life along with that longevity. So Michael, what's your experience there?
It's great, and you hit it on the head. In fact, I'm going to use examples. I was just recently fortunate to be up in Yosemite, a lot of hiking, and it was really neat because at one point I met a group, and they were older people. They were all in their upper 70s, and one of the things that they said as we really were conversing about this phase in our life is that they looked back and they said, what we realize now is we should have been doing this in our 60s. We should have been exercising. We've been doing it because we were taking it for granted. And now, as we're coming into this phase, it gets harder and harder. So what they were acknowledging in myself is that, hey, it's a good thing you're out here. You're doing this. And I wish more people would do this, while they're younger in retirement by staying active and exercising. And that's what's going to have a big impact on the longevity of their health going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you bring up a great point, Michael. We kind of take that for granted. As long as we're feeling pretty good and we can do our daily tasks, we're not thinking ahead far enough to say, yeah, I can do this today, but what's this going to look like in 5 years if I'm not proactively addressing it? It's just really not in our I guess culture and our societal learnings that for us to do that. So really important that we keep an eye on that target of what we want that to look like. So we can then go up the hierarchy of needs and look at those safety needs as we're going into retirement. This is paramount, and again, could be something that we're really not thinking much about. Of course, financial security. We've spent our entire lives most likely building our retirement, our savings, IRAs, planning for how much money am I going to need. And so those concerns about, do we have enough money coming from our pension? Do we have enough in our savings? Can we cover healthcare costs or those long-term healthcare costs that maybe we haven't quite figured in yet? And that can create a lot of anxiety for a lot of people in this retirement phase. And this financial piece also ties into how physically safe we feel. Right? We may be seeking stability through safe physical living environments. So are we planning to stay in our homes? And if so, like, do our homes provide that safe living environment? Is it a low crime area? Do we have the support that we need? And do we have the financial funds to support us in that place of residence? Right? Again, ensuring that adequate health insurance is in place. And then support systems, right? What happens if we become less mobile and we need somebody to come into our home or to go into a retirement community where there is other people there to help us and support us in this phase? So it can even bring a sense of vulnerability, right? Having those safety needs and making sure that they're still in place. And have we thought about them prior to getting to that point where we're like, oh my gosh, I never really planned for this. Now I got to figure it out. So I don't know, Michael, you've volunteered in places with the elderly. What has your experience been here?
Safety is really crucial. I mean, because there's all kinds of elder abuse. It's unfortunately one of those topics we're hearing about, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. And so those are factors that we need to consider as we go forward. Again, the challenge is that we're looking forward as if we're living like we are today. But yet we've changed. And there's a lot of things change as we grow older. And one of those things that relates to sort of a safety thing I've seen and heard a lot is that a form of abuse relates to the fact, which is going to cover your next one, love and belongingness. Well, there's loneliness is epidemic. It sort of happens as we get older. I encourage everybody to consider what we'll be talking about, the need to stay connected, socialize, and that sometimes even means moving into to communities and things where there are more elderly that you can relate to. Because what often happens, and I've unfortunately seen too many cases of this, is that because of loneliness, they're subject to abuse, and particularly who gets targeted? The older community by people that call them and they spend time with them on the phone, and they're getting the attention they have, but their ulterior motive is to get money from them. And
Right.
it truly is a friend of mine talked about, his one of his was girlfriend over there was actually taken for near $500,000 because she just needed that love. She was so alone, and this person was given attention. She was literally giving him everything that he was wanting in it to do that. So we've got to understand these aspects of our life to be able to know how to better manage them and have those around us also be aware of them, our family and others, so they can help to protect us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's a great lead into, that next level of, like you said, the love and belongingness. And we have those social connections when we're in the workplace. They're naturally there. We're used to walking over to somebody's desk and learning about, how did their weekend go or how are things with their family. And now all of a sudden when we leave the workforce, not even thinking about, gosh, I don't have anybody, sitting in the chair next to me, maybe that I can go, how was your weekend? And what's going on with the fam? And so making sure that we are nurturing those relationships with our family, our friends, the community that we currently have outside of the workplace, because that workplace again isn't going to be there forever. forming new social connections through things like clubs, volunteer work, hobbies, any of those, anything that you enjoy doing that can involve other people. Maybe it's getting a group of people together and going for a walk a couple of times a week. That becomes one of your new circles, right? Your social circles. I came across an article in AARP, and they said that loneliness can be as significant as smoking in affecting our health. I was really taken aback by that. So even if you're a non-smoker, loneliness can have serious health consequences. So really, really important to build upon this and make sure that you've got those, either have them in place or you're putting it on your to-do list to make sure that you're again nurturing those relationships and building those social circles outside of the workplace.
Really good. And again, it's a great topic because these are things that are so important. There was a study done on 60 Minutes. You can go and view it. There's been even some updates from that. And they talked about the new 90s being the 90-year-olds. And they said there were two variables that statistically were significant for those that lived longer and maintained their faculties and things. And they said that two of them, the two topics relate to what you covered. One was they stayed active and exercising so that they were continuing to exercise to push themselves to be able to keep that body functioning, as well as mental activities to be able to keep the brain functioning well. Here's that learning piano, as I just gave the example. And in
Yeah.
addition to that was a sense of community, was having others that they could connect with, which often does suggest the idea of moving into the older type of retirement communities, things I saw, no, I'll never be a part of it. But now I can understand why they exist, right? It's because as we get older, those are the ones that can relate to us, and those can become those new connections that we have, but at least in any way doing it. The other thing that I do is I've used Meetup. Now, of course, still younger, very energetic, and Meetup, there's all kinds of activities you can go and attend, typically in every area or community of that, board games,
Mhm.
sporting events, activities. And that's really where I've made a lot of acquaintances and friends, as I've really needed the time to start forming new connections following a divorce and the changes I had in life of not working. I still needed a new network of friends, and that was a great area for me to start making connections.
Yeah.
And that leads into the next two items here that we want to move through. Again, we have to work through these things quickly, right, in order to go through, but each of these could be a topic in itself. Esteem needs, right? Esteem needs is where how we feel about ourselves. And again, this we covered on this topic last time is that for many of us, identity related about what we did in life, our work and our esteem came from that and the money we're making and the promotions and the careers we had, and boom, that's gone. And then ageism plays a factor. It doesn't even allow us to sort of get into the workforce. Well, bingo, our esteem can suffer significantly. And so this is where it's really important to find a new sense of purpose and meaning in your life, right? Now we're moving up the curve. So our safety and other needs have been met. And now we're starting to lay the groundwork for being able to self-actualize. But the first thing we need is really beginning to feel that sense of purpose. This is why one of the things I see a lot of people doing as they get older is volunteering in organizations because immediately they're a part of something that provides a value to the community around them. It really is a sense of purpose, mentorship, or hobbies, just as the playing the piano, and doing it. But it also comes from thinking about what you want to be. And while you have energy, depending upon where you are in that process, is maybe some goals and ambitions that you want to achieve. For me, it was I want to be able to give back to the community. I really want to be able to help what I had to apply in my life, which is this whole concept of becoming to achieving your full potential. And here I am doing these things today that give me this new sense of meaning. And that's a nice lead into the self-actualization. Because self-actualization is, to me, as I worded enlightenment, and I'm going to tie that into, again, what Dr. Riley Moyne says is, how do you squeeze all the remaining juice out of your life to be able to feel a sense of meaning and purpose as you conclude your life, right? Powerful comment, right? It means confronting your mortality, realizing it's there, and using that instead of to feel despair to motivate you to get the most out of every day. Well, in self-actualization, which can be for any different, how many people do you read? I read, you'll go, and I challenge you in anything that you go through. There was stories of triathlons, marathons, of people who were 70s and 80-year-old going and completing those kinds of things. Sure, they might have been last in line or whatever, but they did it. And it was no longer a matter of winning the thing as much as doing it. Continuing education. How often do you hear about elderly people now back in the classroom getting new degrees, learning new topics, learning a different language, learning piano, right? So these are kinds of things that there's many ways to that, but you want to work on the other needs so that you can now focus on finding the sense of meaning and purpose in your life. That's, I could say, is a massive part of my life today and how I'm doing it, and the feeling of sense of satisfaction that I'm getting because I'm helping others. And Dr. Riley Moyen said is that that's very often a common denominator of those who successfully squeeze all the juice out of what's left of their life is that they do that by giving back. And imagine that sense and feeling. For me, it's a sense of satisfaction that I couldn't get from anything else. You couldn't give me enough money or titles or anything to make up for this sense of satisfaction that I've helped somebody else. And as we go on in life, and as we're able now to find others, whether it's being now a grandparent and helping our grandkids and helping our family out by helping them take care of kids, however it is, we're giving back. And it's something to keep in mind is thinking about how can I start giving back? Hey, go out and enjoy life, enjoy retirement. Go out, you deserve it. All of these individual things and the travel and things that you can afford to do, whatever. Yes, do that. But then begin to start thinking about the future years. What is it that I could be doing to begin to help others back as well? In fact, you got to watch Dr. Riley's presentation. He has a slide there where on the county fair, he walked around the corner and he found that there was a booth and they called themselves the Old Coots. We offer advice for anybody that wants it, right? And amazingly enough, there was some people who would come in, young people that would come in and just their things going on in their life, be able to sort of give the advice. So I mean, what an awesome kind of a thing to do. And it's really that kind of idea that we've got to consider for ourselves. So, Heather, any thoughts before we conclude?
Michael, I think that one of the things that I just like to remind people is we all have the ability to think through these scenarios and plan our futures. But I think you've experienced yourself, and I've experienced it as well, that seeking the support of a coach or a counselor can help get you aligned and clear and feel confident about the decisions you may be making and help you get unstuck if you feel like, oh my gosh, my life has changed and now I don't know what to do. So don't hesitate to reach out for help in that kind of area.
I totally agree. And there was something I learned early on. And again, that was part of me. I've always been an advocate of education, going out and learning about this next phase of life or what you're doing or where you want to go so that you can better manage that time, right? Because it's all about managing change and transition, how to do that. One of the key things I learned was this saying about retirement. They said there are three stages. There's the go-go years, typically when you're the younger retiree in the 60s, early 70s, you have all your faculties, abilities to get around, and that's where you're busy doing things. And then there's the go-slow years where you begin to start incurring health issues. Again, they can occur at any time, but this is generally speaking, a great framework to think about. And the go slow is where now you're impacted by, your body doesn't have that capability to go as fast as you always wanted to do some of the things that you used to do in there. And then there are the no-go years of which now age starts to really bring into play. We're starting to do less and less. And this is where the conversation discussion about what happens at this point, or I need to consider nursing facility, any other kind of of home or nursing assistants or things like that too. The earlier you can begin to consider and know those are the reality and have these conversations with your family and begin to basically agree on this, the better it is for all involved. And so, everybody, I really appreciate the fact that you're spending this time with us. And hopefully, through the series so far, we've been able to educate you on some key topics related to this phase in life. It can be amazing, and we want to make it amazing, but it's filled with challenges, like every other part of life. Well, there are a different set of challenges in this life, in this phase of life. And these are the things that, again, we want to know, we want to plan for, we want to consider, we want to navigate this so that we can deal with these times effectively. I strongly encourage you. My neighbor's going through this right now, where his mom is elderly and beginning to start moving into that no-go phase. And it's hard on everybody. And now the biggest regret, and he said this, is I wish that me and my mom, his mom, we talked about this because now, it's going to create a lot more consternation and struggle on this. And it's one of the things that really is a great example of the idea of being able to understand what this phase of life is about and begin to plan for, and then use all these things, these challenges as motivation to go out and make the absolute most out of your life. No matter where you are, it's about striving to be your full potential. This is your life. Who knows what's next? Everybody has their own thoughts on this. But what we know is we have this life. Are there multiple lives? Maybe. But what we know again is we have this life. So the key is to be able to look in that mirror and say, I am going to make the most out of this life. No matter what the cards you were dealt, where you stand, what condition you are in, you can go out there and see all people of all stages of life, of all kinds of challenges that they've had, that those that have been the ones that have strived to get out there and make the most out of each day. And that's how you cross the finish line with a lot more joy and satisfaction and sense of completeness in your life. And that's how I'm modeling my life around that. So again, like everybody for attending, thanks again to Heather. We're going to have another episode here, at least on the topic of retirement. So stay tuned for this. This is You Can Do It, right? And that whole theme, the name of this is all focused on the fact is that you can do it. No matter what you've been dealt with, you can do it. Use that motivation, consider the options that you have, and strive to push yourself to be able to keep going as long and as far as you can in this life and achieving the maximum potential that you could with everything that you were dealt with. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. Look forward to it. Thanks, Heather. Any closing words, Heather?
No, thank you, Michael. I think this is such an important topic, and I hope that it helps influence some people's paths going forward.
Well said. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Love you. Bye. I'm Michael McGinnis, and you've been listening to You Can Do It, Inspiring Growth, Igniting Potential. Tune in every second and fourth Friday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Time on Transformation Talk Radio. As a recognized educator, author, and speaker on human potential, let's learn together how to make the most out of this life and to put a ding in your universe. This is the incredible journey of personal and spiritual growth, self-discovery, and enlightenment. For more information, visit growhumanpotential.com.